Hey everybody, Rob here. It's time for some stories from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. First one, check your employee handbook. It's right there. Let's jump right in. Please hit that subscribe button because I'm not a robot.
I don't think he likes me.
This story happened about 14 years ago when I worked for a now defunct electrical store in the UK, whose name I won't mention, but it rhymed with vomit. At the time, I was a teenager and reliant on public transport to get to work. There was only one bus an hour to this out-of-town retail park, and it was scheduled to arrive at 8:55, which theoretically would give me enough time to walk from the bus stop to the store ready to start my shift at 9 a.m. However, on many occasions, the bus was late due to traffic, so I'd sometimes arrive at work at 9:05, which wasn't a problem because the store was usually quiet until 11 a.m. But the manager accepted that I would make up any of this time at the end of my shift. So this went on for about a year with no problems until a new deputy manager was brought in from another store. She was a clock watcher and wanted me to be there at 9 a.m. every day and wasn't accepting any excuses for buses being late or anything else. I asked her if I could simply change my shift from 9 to 5 to 9:10 to 5:10, which I thought was reasonable. She refused completely and told me, "You have to be on time for your shift. Check your employee handbook, it's right there." I did check my employee handbook and it did state exactly what she said, but on the same page, it said that every employee working a shift longer than 6 hours is entitled to a 60-minute uninterrupted lunch break. Uninterrupted is the key word here. Later that day, I was about halfway through my lunch break in the staff room when she came in and said that the shop floor was busy, there's not enough salespeople out there, and there's a customer waiting to buy a plasma TV. Nobody volunteered, so she specifically picked me and told me to go and serve the customer and then come back to continue my lunch break. This wasn't uncommon and it wasn't really a problem usually. I served the customer, processed the sale, and then went back to the staff room to continue my break. 50 minutes later, she comes back to the staff room with a face like thunder, asking why I'm still on my lunch break. "You should have been back out on the shop floor 20 minutes ago. Why are you still in here?" I calmly replied that I still have 10 minutes left on my 60-minute uninterrupted lunch break. I explained that by taking me off lunch 30 minutes early, that wasn't an uninterrupted lunch break. Before I smiled and told her, "Check the employee handbook, it's right there." She was furious. She went to the store manager and said I'd taken an extra long lunch break. But when he came in to speak to me, I explained to him that my break was interrupted by the deputy manager. She protested and said that just because I have to spend a few minutes with a customer doesn't mean I'm entitled to an extra 30-minute break. The store manager wasn't happy with the situation, but agreed that I was entitled to my uninterrupted break as per company policy. By now, it was time for me to go back out on the shop floor, so I put my lunchbox back in my locker and left. She didn't talk to me for the rest of the day, but she didn't ask any of us to serve customers during our lunch breaks ever again either. I don't know, OP, it seems like they interrupted your second attempt as well. You probably could have just said, "Now, if you'll excuse me," and put your feet back up on the table for another hour, but that might have been pushing things. On to our next story. You want me to stay? Okay. Let's jump right in. So, I am currently 7 months into my new job, mainly shipping orders online. My hours have been constant up until a month ago. 5 days a week from 10 until 7. A few weeks ago, they changed my hours. Due to turnovers and new staff, I have become part of the veterans, the old guard, whatever you call it. One of the staff who was left was on the morning shift, so they asked me to start earlier, from 6 to 3. No problem, like the better hours. Cue someone who we'll call Kurt. Kurt is the evening weekend supervisor, but isn't around my department that much. I didn't interact with him, nor him with me. But for some reason, this weekend, he noticed me leaving at the end of my shift. Kurt apparently hadn't heard of my shift change for months, or just straight up forgot about my hour change. But Saturday, as I was leaving and talking with a coworker, he came out of the door by the one exit screaming like a male banshee. "Where are you going?" "I'm going home. You're staying until the end of your shift." "But I'm done for the day." "You are not done until 7. I know that for a fact." Comprehension of what's happening. "Hey, I started working. I don't give a crap about what you started working on. Get it finished first when you go back into the warehouse." Inner malicious compliance gear set to go. Okay. So I put my stuff back in my locker and returned to the warehouse. I look at the online orders. Oh, one popped up a minute ago. I should get at it. Shucks, none in warehouse. Better find it on the floor. Oh, it's locked up. Better go back and get the keys. Okay, got the keys. Oops, wrong set. Needless to say that I did little for those hours. Busy enough to look busy, but did what I could to fill the time. Today, I went to my supervisor and mentioned that I will be adding 4 hours of overtime to my paycheck. When asked, I told her that Kurt asked me to stay until 7. Later on, my manager came over and apologized to me. He told me that Kurt was brought in and was asked why he kept me later than was necessary, and they had to patiently explain the change of hours. Kurt tried to say I volunteered to stay, but it didn't hold water. Then said that I talked back. Nope. Coworker vouched for me. Then his Hail Mary throw. I didn't tell him of the schedule change. Coworker once again vouched that I tried to tell him, but he overruled and yelled over me. Now I have some extra pay coming my way, and Kurt has been instructed to look at the schedule immediately when it's put up. This is what happens when people with no leadership or managerial skills get promoted simply because of their seniority. Maybe Kurt should be put back on a job he can handle, like scrubbing toilets. On to our next story. Don't call me ma'am. Okay, sir. Let's jump right in. Obligatory, this didn't happen recently. This was a few years ago when photo centers were still actually common in stores. Bit of a background, I had your standard terrifying grandma whose fear of reprisal instilled in me a rigid adherence to manners. I'll always say pardon instead of what or huh, and I always address people I don't know by gender-respecting honorifics. Men are always sir, and women I don't know are ma'am. I was raised believing these are signs of respect to people you aren't familiar with. Apparently, that's no longer the case, and a lot of women and Karens take being called ma'am as utterly insulting. A lady came in to ask for help with our photo kiosks. This is a tertiary service that our company offered, and it was supposed to be entirely customer operated. This lady comes in and is told the machine is self-serve and immediately began to scream at us, telling us it's our job to do it for her. We do nothing else. While I was serving another couple, and we were good for nothing. Trying to de-escalate the situation, I asked the couple I'm serving to wait and go over to see if I could help. What she wanted to do could not actually be done by our machines, and I explained that to her. Don't give me that. I've had it done here before. Can you get someone who actually knows what they're doing to help me? Ma'am, I do know how to work these machines, and what you're asking can't be done. Her face immediately filled with hatred, and she said in a cutting voice, "Don't you dare call me ma'am. I'm not a ma'am." "Okay, sir, I'm sorry," I said without really thinking. If I thought she was angry before, nothing compared to the torrent of hatred that exploded when I called her sir. She began screaming at me that she was an important customer to the store. I was the worst person she had ever encountered. She would be calling her friends in our head office to get me fired by the end of the day, and all the other things you come to expect from your middle-aged white woman who has been denied her idealized service of us bending over backwards for her. She was yelling so loud the store manager came out cause she was worried. Interrupting the lady's diatribe, she asked what had happened. "Your associate called me sir when I asked him not to call me ma'am." The dumbfounded look on my manager's face was priceless. "I'm sorry, but what do you want him to call you?" At this point, I left and the customer started screaming at my manager about how we were all going to lose our jobs. I went back to the couple I was helping, apologized, and resumed helping them. Eventually, the lady stormed out and my manager called me to her office. I walk in and my manager is sitting with her head down, massaging her temples. I come in and she can only say, "I hate people." Wait, haven't I seen this in a movie before? Isn't the boss supposed to pull out 2 glasses, offer a drink to OP, and then say, "I hate people"? On to our next story. Kid wants me to buy alcohol for him. I refuse. He says, "Come on, take the money." Let's jump right in. Okay, so this happened over 20 years ago when I was in my early 20s. I worked at a convenience store. Our store had a small room built on the outside where we placed cans and bottles into big bags to return to the companies who distributed beer or soda. Oregon gave a refund of 5 cents each, but now it's 10. Anyway, one day at the end of my swing shift, it was about 10 or 10:30 p.m. I believe it was my Friday, and so I wouldn't be back in at least 2 days. I was in the bottle room sorting bottles I took on my shift. I hear a "hey." I look up, it's a regular we got in there, a 12-year-old kid. Edit, I'm putting in an edit because it was an approximation. He was just a regular, didn't know much else about him. He says, "Hey Joe, could you buy me some beer from me and my friends?" I was surprised. What? Nah man, I'm not risking my job for that. Kid says, "Come on man, it'd be easy for you, and I'd owe you one." I told the kid no again, and said I'm not risking my job, not risking the fine, up to 5K, and I have no money. Kid says, "Here, take the 20, and holds up a $20 bill. Nah man, I'm not buying beer dude. I repeat myself. This back and forth has been going on for 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm getting irritated. I tell him no again. Again he says, "Come on, take the money." I look at him and take the 20. Kid says, "Cool, I'll wait behind the store." I don't say a thing as he leaves the room. I leave it and lock the door. I walk in and look at my coworker. I tell him the kid tried to get me to buy him beer, and when I told him no, he kept insisting I take the $20. I told him I took it and it's an annoyance tax. I told him have a good night and left. About a week or so later, the kid is in the store. He's looking at candy. He waits until no one is there and comes to the counter. "Where is my money?" he asks. I look at him. "What money?" "My $20 for the beer you were supposed to buy." He says, "I told you I wouldn't buy you beer. And after that, you insisted I take a $20 bill," I say. He gets all red in the face. "You better give me my money back or else." I lean in towards him. "Or else what? You gonna call a cop?" The kid looked surprised. Then he walked out defeated. Never came back in when I was working. Well, LP, I don't think it's stealing if somebody gives you something. I mean, the kid said to take the money. You took the money. I don't see that you did anything wrong. On to our last story. You don't have the parts required, but insist I come to site. Okay, let's jump right in. I work as a field service engineer. I go to a variety of sites and do specialized work on a variety of different equipment. I have a customer that requires a 1-hour flight to get to, and I usually go there once every 2 months. They had a bunch of big staff changes on site over the last few years, and that made the site more and more awkward to deal with. They have their analyzer that I serviced for them. It requires chemical reagents to take measurements. They report to me that they're having an issue with the analyzer and want me on site ASAP. I ask a few questions to try and see what's going on, and they very grudgingly give answers. Too much effort for the manager to bother looking into it or to allow the lowly operator to contact me directly. From what little information I do get, I'm thinking that they've run out of reagents. It's never happened before on this site because the operator knew what he was doing, kept a close eye on reagent levels, he checked them once a week, changed them when needed, and got replacements ordered when needed too. These aren't things that you can bulk buy for the year and forget about. The shelf life isn't great in them, and a bottle of reagent could last from 3 months to 18 months, depending on the reagent. The analyzer required 10 separate reagents. So there's a little bit of effort required to manage the reagents properly and keep everything going with the analyzer. Before this issue, the operator was allowed to order stuff themselves. Now everything needs to be approved by Big Boss Manager Guy, who had a very high opinion of himself, and he didn't think it was necessary to order replacement reagents when the operator said they were needed. I tell him that the issue looks like the analyzer is out of reagents, and I'm pretty sure they don't have any spare. We had quoted them after my previous service for reagents, the operator asked me to, and we hadn't received an order for them yet, so I know they weren't ordered. So there's no point in me going to site unless they have those. Manager Guy insists that I come over, emailing me with a bunch of high-up staff on the site CC'd. I reply with a date to travel over, asking if that date is okay, and restating my concerns about their lack of reagents and that they have several weeks of lead time. I get to site a couple of days later. I do an inspection on the analyzer. A bunch of the reagent bottles are empty. Everything else looks fine to me. Nothing I can do. One or two people are getting a bit grumpy with me that their analyzer isn't working. I restate everything about the reagents. Why hadn't this happened before? Well, your operator was allowed to get stuff ordered himself, and now he's not. Someone never signed off on that a few weeks ago. Guess I'll see you in a few weeks for the next service visit after the new reagents arrive. And here's an invoice for a couple €1,000 for this emergency visit that you insisted on having. It was really nice of them to have a paper trail for OP that went right up to the higher management on the site. If he ever got questioned on that extra trip, all he'd have to do is show that trail. I'd like to thank all 5 OPs for posting their stories to the Malicious Compliance subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them all an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.